Uh, oh, okay.
I see us on Twitch.
Okay. Someone had sent me a message on Twitter. His account, I think it's a he. His account is private, so I'm not gonna share it here. But I posted a thread earlier today on Twitter about like all the stupidly rare games that I had sitting in the bookshelf here behind me. If anyone's watching the video version, this used to have more stuff in it, um, and it's now in bins over there on the floor. And I posted that the other day I posted that I had purchased limited run games run of Return of the Obra Dinn, which is their 355th game. And then I posted today that I had their number 1, 2, and 3 games that they put out. And I've bought some stuff in between, but they apparently they tweeted out a couple days ago that's like, hey, if you've bought the original couple of games from us and you're still buying in 2020, maybe we'll shoot you out a quick email for like a special bonus surprise. And I was like, wait, that's me. I'll get a surprise. So
Nice.
It's probably my spam filter.
Man,
Oh man.
that's exciting. Yeah, I don't have a ton of limited run stuff. Like I have they did a limited collector's edition of Transistor that my local game store got.
Oh, nice.
And that's a real nice box with some cool looking pins in it.
Oh, nice.
And then I got like I did wind up being able to afford not the $500 Scott Pilgrim, but the
As much as I want that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't even go for that one. I went for just the standard one with the reversible cover.
I had some money come into me that week. I don't remember if it was that I sold some. Oh no, it was that I sold all my hero clicks.
Oh, okay, there you go. Yeah. Yeah, I didn't. I wanted to go for the $130 one because there was something. Was that the one that came with the
that is
little
the
stage? Yeah, that's a really cool idea. But I think at the same time they announced something else that I wanted to buy. I was like, well, instead of buying just one of these, I think I'll be able to buy like 2 or 3 of these games that I really love.
Yeah. I'm still tempted. Like they have a Switch case for the Scott Pilgrim stuff, and I'm real tempted to grab that.
Yeah.
The problem is, like, I'm worried it doesn't have the functionality of my current case, which is just that Zelda Walmart case. But that Zelda Walmart case has 2 like 8-packs that you can put your games in.
Oh, cool.
Which a lot of them don't have, and my guess is the Scott Pilgrim one isn't going to have any of that. So,
yeah, I would sort of assume that it wouldn't.
As much as I like buying digital, like there's a lot of cool collector's edition stuff that comes out for Switch that I wind up getting.
Oh, yeah. Well, and part of my thing too, especially like Scott Pilgrim is like case number 1 of like, oh, I had this digital thing and now it doesn't carry over to my newer consoles because it's not on the store anymore, and it's this weird. And it's like, I'm definitely, at least for like archival purposes, I'm definitely buying a disc of this one.
That's a really excellent point. Like, God, and I don't like, so my wife was trying to play Ultimate Alliance. Right, I own it on Xbox 360, and she was trying to play it on my Xbox One the other night, and it wouldn't let her because they did a re-release of it, so therefore they're not allowing the backwards compatible one to work.
God. That's the worst, but I'm sure the re-release is totally fine, right?
Yeah, I assume so. Yeah, we'll just have to fork over $20 to $40 if we want that. But
yeah, that's right, because they put out like a gold edition of that later, where it's like, oh, it has like all the bug fixes and all the DLC and all that stuff. And it's like, oh god.
Yeah, I still have my 360. We'll just live with having to go to another machine for it.
Yeah, I was just actually, you can see them right here right there in the frame on the video version. I've got a couple, about 1, 2, maybe 360s sitting back there. So like, if I really needed to, I could plug them into something. But
Oh
man,
gosh,
I
what was I watching? I was watching something recently, and someone like it was like a fictional show thing, but one of the characters had made a server farm out of Nintendo 64s. So
that's really
that
good.
is where my mind has gone looking at your 360s.
Well, I unveiled a bunch of stuff as I was cleaning up my collection. This pile over here, you guys can only see like a little bit of it. It's very bad over here. But there's like a PS4 and Xbox One down there, a launch Xbox One. There's a launch PS3. There's a launch PS4, a Wii U, and I think a record player over there. So there's just like a pile of crap that I just need to like get in bins and just find somewhere to put it.
I have a large amount of old consoles hooked up to my downstairs TV, but like I already have like an HDMI switch and an RCA switch, and I need another HDMI switch because my GameCube and my Super Nintendo are not hooked up, and my plans are to get those $20 to $30 HDMI converter cables for them. And
oh, right. I've heard those are pretty good.
It's initially working, like so I have them for some of my Sega systems. And so like on my Sega Genesis, it works really well. But when I plug it into my Sega CD, I get like these really heinous scan lines on any FMV, which
weird.
That's the purpose of the Sega CD. Come on.
right.
But and then on top of that, like the first one I bought for it, I can't remember what the brand was called, but like it stopped transmitting sound at one point.
Oh, wow.
And today on the new one that has been working for months, I discovered I accidentally have left my Sega on for about a week solid, if not possibly longer.
Oh boy.
My wife and I were playing Contra Hardcore, and while it showed the screen, the sound was distorted in Contra Hardcore. So I'm just praying to God the thing didn't fry itself, and I have to consider buying another one. But anyway.
Yeah.
First world problems.
Are you ready to start the show?
Let's do
it. All right. Let's get started in 3, 2, 1. Welcome back to another episode of Picking Up the Pixels RPG Love. I'm your host, Boston Jimmy, as always, is Musum.
Hello.
Mina is out this month. She's having some computer hardware issues. I feel like kind of as all of us are, unfortunately, recently. So her machine is in the shop, sort of up on the hydraulic lift, getting fixed. I've worked around computers so many times and throughout my career that like I just imagine it's just up on that like and it's just, my mind. I've had too much caffeine today. All right, let's get started with the show. Musum, what have you been playing this past month?
A handful of things.
Okay.
So the first one I will talk about is a game that I think released yesterday that I had never heard of till yesterday. And it advertised itself as a co-op RPG and had this like really cool kind of dance music that was 80s style, but sounds too new to be 80s, you know? And it is called Haven. It is a new game by the Game Bakers. And Susie and I started playing it. So one of the things that attracted me to this game was that it advertises itself as the two characters you're playing co-op as are a couple. So they
this
have
game. Yeah.
A lot of relationship, whatever stuff in it. And we only played a few hours today, but it seemed really cool. Like it does not seem hard, and it tells you that it's not a challenging game, oddly enough, at the start of the game.
Right.
But it's gosh, I'm losing track of my thoughts. But so like probably an hour or two into it, I'm like, so where's the RPG part? Like, because it mostly been story and kind of a I I don't want to compare it to Stardew because it's nowhere near that complex, but you're very much gathering foods and different things to
Mm.
build food and like first aid stuff back at your ship. And eventually we finally hit the combat, which turned out to be turn-based. I'm like, okay, this is the RPG part.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
And you both kind of go at once, and all the moves are charge moves. You hold a button down for X amount of seconds, and it executes. So that's kind of how they do I guess that technically makes it not turn-based, but it feels like a turn-based situation, even though you go whenever you want. I've been trying to think about how to talk about this game because I feel like a lot of our enjoyment has been discovering aspects of it.
Mm-hmm.
Like just the loose basis, without spoiling much of anything, is that you are a couple that is on the run. You've landed on this foreign planet. You've been examining various plants to see what you can eat. And a lot of the story seems centered around revealing to the audience what has caused these people to run, what are they actually running from, and things like that.
Right.
You do have a bunch of decisions along the way, and some of them seem arbitrary, and some of them don't. The different characters will, like, it'll say, like one of the characters' name is K, and the other character's name is U. So like you'll make a choice, and it'll be like K feels more confident, or something like that afterwards.
Okay.
So I get the impression we can probably break this couple up if we really wanted to. But the other problem is it has, I'll call it LA Noir syndrome, where you don't know what exactly the option you're choosing is going to result in. Like,
okay.
We chose one option, and the male character just started like extreme, like condescending mansplaining the woman some stuff.
So you pick the sure option where you're like, yeah, he's just gonna
Yeah.
agree, and he'll go like, oh sure, oh you just want to do that, and it's like, wait, that's not what I want.
Yeah, it was really one of those horrifying things because it literally lasted several minutes of him just being this pompous jerk. It was bad, but
yeah.
I mean, even the conversation thing's interesting because you both have, like, it shows you the two conversation options, and you both have a different color highlight, and it doesn't go so far as to like have you both choose different options and fight over it. You both just have to choose the same option for it to progress.
Oh, interesting.
The actual co-op, the actual gameplay is your character will initially walk, but then you hold down one of the shoulder buttons to kind of do this hover flight speed dash thing.
Yeah, I have some trailers playing on the video version now, and there seems like there's this like floating, flying, dashing thing.
Yeah, it doesn't get you up cliffs, but it moves you around a lot. It's like if you do it over water and stop in water, you'll have to swim to kind of an edge of the water before you can do it again, which I thought was an interesting thing to it. But what you're doing is you're moving around, and then the co-op player has the ability to move kind of this anything around and pick up items while you do it. You can also stop and grab stuff, but basically there's a bunch of red stuff that's covered the land, and you have to kind of hover over it to get rid of it. And ideally, while you're doing that, the person you're with is either keeping an eye out for the sparkly red rock that gets rid of the whole mass in the area, or picking up things you can make food or first aid out of.
Okay.
While all that's going on, like the game's on a day and night cycle. So you'll get up, you'll cook food in the morning. You have the option to cook additional food to eat later. Although I tell you, the game starts out with I forget which one's K and which one's U. I think the female's K. I'm pretty sure it starts out with K complaining about having to eat, I forget it's apple something. I want to say Applebee's. It's not Applebee's. It's yes, she's complaining that she has to eat Applebee's all the time. Who would? But it did not, like, Susie and I were like, okay, well, let's try not to find these apple things anymore, and like that's all we found. So we didn't like put a lot of time in the morning to making it, but we almost kind of died on like our second day in the game because you can't use healing items unless you're in a place that you can rest in effectively.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
like it says quiet places you can do it in. I have not run into a quiet place in the game, so I don't know what that constitutes as.
Hmm.
But it's I don't know. The characters seem really likable, and the background stuff seems cool. And I don't know where anyone would come to the conclusion that these two should have stayed behind with their previous lives because it sounded pretty heinous to me. But
Right.
um, it seems like a really cool game so far. It's like $25 and it came out on everything. We're playing on Switch.
I think
The
it's on
only
Game Pass on Xbox also, if I remember.
it, it seems like a lot of fun. And it's
Yeah.
at first I was worried there wouldn't be enough for one of us to do since the other person's kind of driving and the other person isn't doing a whole lot with moving the blob. But
You don't want it to be like Mario Galaxy, where it's like I get to play as Mario and you get to play as as a cursor. It's just
yeah,
like scoop all this stuff up. It's like, well, that's not gonna work.
but so far the game's been cinematic enough, and both players really have to be engaged in the battle system for it to work. Because
That's especially cool.
I'll tell you something I really like about the battle stuff is you aren't out to kill the creatures that you're fighting. The creatures, like they have that corruption that's over everything, and some creatures get red corruption. So your goal is to subdue the creatures through violence,
Right.
and then purify the creatures so they can go back to being
Oh, so you're not
weird.
like, you're not killing them. You're just kind of knocking them out and cleaning them up.
Yep.
Okay, that's
And
kind of cool.
and so far you seem to be able to pet every single creature in the game, which is
Now you're talking my language. There we go.
absolutely adorable.
Yep.
Um, there's a lot of like really cool touches where you'll have both characters kind of flying around and randomly they'll just start like holding hands sometimes, or
Oh, that's cool.
you'll grab something and they'll have a little bit of dialogue that's uh, them talking about something. Then later on, they may bring up that same dialogue again. Like there's a lot of
Oh,
cool
wow.
different things like that in it. I don't know how long it's going to wind up being, but and the interface kind of leaves something to be desired in that
Hmm.
I don't see a stat tree. The only way to find out your hit points is by going back to your base and looking in the bathroom mirror. And then you can see where your HP is actually at. But it's, to me, it's almost the definition of an art house game. It has some rough edges because it's made by a smaller team, but ultimately it's a very pretty looking game with music that I like a lot. Susie calls it vaporwave, but I think
Well,
vaporwave's maybe a little bit more laid back than this is. But
yeah, I was actually the game makers, the studio's name. I didn't remember what their first game was, and they made Fury, Furi, that like
right,
dual stick shooting arena fighting game that's brutally difficult. So it's nice to see them doing something like radically different as opposed to just
yeah,
here's another one of those. Even though Fury was very well received.
yeah. We liked this enough that we briefly considered canceling all our plans for the day.
Right.
I mean, not the podcast, obviously.
Oh,
but,
sure, yeah.
Anywho, so that's my few hours with that.
That sounds cool.
Continuing on, I played a lot of Persona 5 this month. I was starting
Royal?
to worry I had messed up in that I guess you have to get to get to the true ending and to get to the third semester, you have to have Akechi leveled up to a certain point.
Hmm.
And then, of course, you have to have the two new characters leveled up to a certain point. And I had not been working on Akechi at all because I'm like, well, screw that. I've seen his story in the other one. I don't really need it again. And
Right.
then I realized I have a little bit over 2 months in game time to get him to like rank 8 or something like that.
Oh boy.
But I tweeted about it, and I think it was it Arvis or was it I'm just not gonna. Oh yeah, it was Gibbinator. Givinator talked me off the ledge because I guess he had just gone through the same thing.
Mm.
um, but that continues to still be a really good game, and it still baffles me why PlayStation made the regular Persona 5 free when this is not DLC.
Right. Yeah, it's one of those ones where it's like I can't recommend people play it enough, and it's free if you have a PS5 and like PS Plus, but only the regular version is free. It's like,
Yeah.
yeah, but it's missing all the cool new stuff and like the stuff that makes it easier to play. So
Yeah. Like, I have 4 or 5 confidants like maxed right now, and I'm on
wow.
like the beginning of September, about to go to Hawaii, and I have like 2 more that are at like rank 8 or 9. So
Oh wow.
I I feel like it is possible that I can max everyone out.
Mm.
But I don't remember how the Hawaii trips goes because right now they're talking like they're going to be over there for a month, and I'm like, I don't think I lost a month of
I
in-game
thought
time
it
to
was just a
Hawaii last time.
week.
Yeah,
Yeah, because
that's what.
I feel like in all the Persona games when they go, sorry, in 3, 4, and 5 when they go for a trip, it's like a dedicated week. I'm like remembering the one for Persona 4 when they go camping. It's like a dedicated week where you lose, I think, those 5 weekdays, but I don't think it was a month.
Yeah, I'm thinking like probably someone gets murdered or something, and it gets canceled early. Like it has to be something like that. I can't imagine.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. Something does happen, or like there was a storm that was coming in or something.
Mm,
Yeah, there's something that's like, yeah, we gotta go home. See ya.
yeah.
Hmm.
So I'm about to start that. I did. Oh, I guess real quick on Futaba's Tomb because that's what I spent a lot of time trying to finish.
Hmm.
I don't know that it's gotten any better. Like my run through that probably would have gone faster, except they have this one puzzle where there's a Sphinx holding a glowing ball, and you
Hmm.
have to take that glowing ball and get it to another Sphinx. The problem is the other Sphinx you have to get it to um, is on a path that the camera is never going to see. Like you have to, one, be
Oh,
paying attention to your map, and 2, realize that that's where that is because you've probably already been there, so your map will already be filled out. Um,
but you just haven't seen like the right angle.
yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
And then you get up to that other Sphinx and you can put the ball in. And I probably gained like 4 or 5 levels while trying to figure out what the heck to do there.
Right.
But once I got past that, the whole rest of the dungeon like took maybe an hour at most, you know.
That's
Like
not bad.
it was nothing. And I think if I hadn't gotten hung up on that, it probably wouldn't have been that bad. It still is one of the weaker dungeons.
Yeah,
Uh
just because it's like it's not like the puzzles are hard. It's just like I remember the layout being really confusing.
yeah. Um so I yeah. The other thing I want to mention is I mean a game as long as Persona 5, there's always going to be problematic things occasionally arising
Yeah.
in it. Um One thing I never caught the first time is how can I say this without spoiling anything? So Futaba at some point, right, does some hacking and gets some people for you.
Hmm.
And the thing I didn't catch the first time around, and they don't use the word, but she totally doxes them.
Oh, right.
They're like, yeah, no, she posted their name and address on the internet, and that was the
And
end of that.
and you're like, oh no,
It's like, ooh, that's
Futaba, no.
I guess the teenagers are the ones in real life who are doing the doxing,
Right.
probably. But
Right. Right.
anyway, um, I'm hoping to finish Persona 5 by the time uh, what's it called? Strikers comes out.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
I feel like it's possible, but I don't know how long that new semester is, and
Yeah, and like the couple of the like the last 2 or 3 dungeons are all pretty lengthy.
yeah,
Yeah.
I've been trying to remember what the heck the name of the next villain is for the life of me, and it
That was the
is
space
completely gone.
dungeon is the third one, right?
Is it? It's
I think
like
so.
I feel like that's right. Like it
It's either that or the bank.
has to be the plant girls, the rich girls thing. So the bank I've already done.
Oh, okay.
That was before Futaba's.
Oh, okay. So yeah,
Yeah,
I
I
think
get.
the next one is a space one.
Yeah. Oh, right, because that's the one
Haru's dad.
where the twist comes at the end. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, like a
That's
really, really cool story beat at the end of that dungeon. But that dungeon, I remember being, a lot of people hate that dungeon way more than I do. I remember finishing that dungeon and the boss battle being really hard, but the dungeon itself being like kind of a little boring.
mm, yeah. I don't know. The game's. I mean, I guess I don't remember it at all, really, except for that
Right.
last event. So it's.
Right.
I mean, I guess it was bland. I mean, we've talked about it many times. The problem is you start out with arguably the most evil man in the game as
Right.
the first villain.
He's so terrible. God. Like he's so terrible to so many people in that school that just like, God, this is a real, like, he's a real piece of work. God.
I know. It's like you get to the second boss and you're like, oh, he's just doing one student at the time. Did you see the first boss who was doing a
Right.
full
Yeah. Like,
classroom?
did you see the last guy with that giant tongue? Like that guy was real bad.
Anyway, um, let's see. I also played a bit more Cyberpunk.
Hmm.
I think this is going to be one of those games where I'm just going to be wind up playing it on and off throughout the year. Like,
Yeah.
I've mostly gotten what I wanted out of it, and I don't want to beat it yet because I've read up on it. And like, if you beat it when you start the game again, it starts you before that whole storyline started.
Oh, okay.
Which it sounded like it might be lengthy enough, and I figured I want to see the rest of this. And like the characters they have in the game, that you can do a mission with, like all those missions are freaking awesome. Like I did Pan Am's quest line, and so long as you're cool with killing the people she wants to kill, like hers is a lot of fun.
Oh, okay.
And like I did I need to write down these names. I did the Hacker Girls.
Okay.
I guess she's not she's like a video editor for an adult place, but
Yeah.
she Judy, that's her name.
Oh,
She's
okay.
probably
That's
like
the only one I've ever seen because people seem to either really love her or really hate her.
I don't know why anyone would hate her. Like she is one of the best characters in the game, and like one of her missions, like her get to know you missions, you one get to do something mechanically I assumed would not at all be in the game. Two, like, gosh, I'm just gonna talk around it because it's all huge spoilers, and
Sure.
like if anyone spends time with this game, they really should just see it for themselves. Like the whole story of you guys going down there and talking about what happened to her there, like, is all like heart-wrenching and mind-blowing, and like you could just see it happening modern day in a way. If well, modern day if the physics of the situation were there. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Point being,
Right.
it's cool and it's unexpected, but like all of those missions are kind of like that. Like Pan Am's, you get to, God, like you heist a tank.
Jeez.
Like,
So they're not just like go into this building, fight one fight, and then get like a story dump. It's like this real lengthy kind of thing, it sounds like.
I think arguably, like mechanically, like you could boil it down to that, but like how it usually works out is like Pan Am's was, okay, you go with Pan Am, you do this run to accomplish this goal for this fixer, and then you go do this other run to accomplish this other goal for Pan Am, and then Pan Am will be like, it's late, you want to go get a hotel room, so you go get a hotel room, and like you can hit on her, but you aren't going to get anywhere with her that night, and then like kind of wake up the next day and then go do kind of the next mission in the story, and it gives you like a sense of place in this open world that like I just haven't gotten from other open world games. But
Oh, nice.
those are kind of the only moments you get that sense, like, which is kind of like it's Cyberpunk's just such a weird situation because it in some ways it is leagues above everywhere else, but like that's maybe 10 to 20% at most of the ways it does it. And
Sure.
like the other 80% is, I won't say generic, but just not up to that par, and it really creates a um, uncanny, well, for lack of a better term, like an uncanny valley effect,
Hmm.
like where you have these really real moments of the game, and then you have these other moments that are like barely edited, like
Right.
uh,
And they're like they're fine, but it's like, well, I just
yeah,
did this stuff over here and that's like a 10 out of 10 and the stuff you're having me do is like a 6 out
yeah,
of 10. Like it's fine, but you know, that
and
stuff I just did was really good.
like it'll be missing. Like it blows my mind that that they aren't aping the whole Saints Row buddy system, where you can just
Hmm.
call up one of these characters and have them hang out with you while you guys go run like quests for whatever fixers in the area,
Right.
you know?
Right.
Um,
Because like
because
unlike The Witcher, where it's like I work alone, this is sort of the lone wolf is kind of the deal with that character. It feels a lot more in universe in this game to say like, hey man, Judy, why don't you hang around with me for a couple of hours? You can kind of just
yeah,
not even necessarily like give her stuff and give her equipment and stuff, but just like, hey, why don't you just like shoot stuff that's shooting at me, like it,
ex-
something like
exactly.
that.
I feel like that should be in there. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, that's part of the joys of like a Mass Effect and a Saints Row, and
Mhm.
like even to a degree, like Skyrim's not so great
Right. I
companions, you
mean,
know?
GTA 4 did that pretty well. Where it's like, oh, I'm going to call someone up and we're going to just ride around for a while.
Yeah. And like the character writing, like in Cyberpunk, is probably some of the better writing in the game, honestly. Like
Hmm.
they aren't all like super deep characters. Like there's not like Panam's a really enjoyable character, but like Judy has some like major stuff to tell you, right? Like
Right.
there's certain contrasts there, but they're still like so well done and so much better animated than anyone else in the game.
Right.
Um, which I know there's budget and time concerns, and obviously they spend a near decade on it anyway. But
Hmm.
um, and another like minor complaint that I assume is a glitch that they're going to fix at some point. Um, Generally, when you complete all the quests for one of your side characters, or at least this is the way it's been with the two or three I've done, you gain a place like an apartment place,
Okay.
but you can't sleep at said apartment place.
Oh.
And it is driving me nuts. You can do everything else there.
So it's not like a safe house, it's just like a crafting station almost?
Yeah, like they have beds there. So that's why I assume it's a glitch.
Right.
Like I mean, I guess the other part of the glitch is at a certain end of one of the characters' quests, they were supposed to have gone to start traveling the country, and they're just sitting in their apartment. So
Right.
that's a little weird.
Right.
Especially like that character will call you occasionally and you'll talk over your comm link, but like one time they were talking to me as I was going to their place that they gave me, and as I walked into their place it switched into real world voices because they were still in their apartment, even
Oh.
though they were telling me they were in Oregon or something. Anyway,
Right. It's beautiful out here. It's like, wait a minute.
yeah. Um I I think they I don't know what CD Projekt Red has on their agenda for this game, but I would really like them to revisit all their UI for crafting and inventory
Mm,
management, because it is like a Mass Effect 1 level of terrible.
right.
Uh,
Right.
it is it overweighs you, you get too much of it, and I'm the type where like in a game like this I like to have one of every weapon and
Yeah.
kind of keep the best thing. And they do not make it easy to tell what you have in your inventory, to quickly empty your inventory. Like,
Oh.
so like in a Skyrim, I'd throw everything in a box. And then after a certain amount of time, I'd go and take everything out of the box and be like, okay, I can get rid of this. I can get rid of this. I can get rid of this. And I'll
Yeah,
put all
break
this
it all
stuff back.
down. Yeah.
So there's not a take all button in the inventory on Cyberpunk. And it takes literally a full second after you click on an item for it to go to your inventory.
Oh boy.
So when you have like 100 items in there, like you're just like, oh my gosh, get out of here.
Right.
Um, and I don't, maybe this may be something that runs better on PC time wise, but PC still isn't going to have an empty all box unless you're doing a mod.
Yeah,
Uh,
exactly.
so, anywho, And then lastly, I'll just briefly talk about Epic 7.
Mm.
I'm I feel like I'm starting to die out on that again because I cannot figure out how to beat the same character I've been trying to beat for about over a month or two now.
Right.
Um, the I don't know, man. I like the art in that game so much,
Oh,
and
it's
I like
so
the
good.
story stuff so much.
It's like their tagline. Whenever I see it, like advertised on the internet, they always call it the playable anime. And it's like, yeah, man, that's really the thing you're going for. Like, it's so good looking.
Yeah, and they keep giving me all these great characters. It's
Hmm.
but I don't know. We'll see. I guess maybe all I need to do is stop doing because I missed a couple of the dailies earlier this week, and it occurred to me maybe I don't need to quit the game. Maybe I just need to stop trying to do the dailies because I'd fallen into kind of that habit again. While the
Right.
dailies have gotten better to accomplish, I think I've gotten to the point where I really just want to interact with it a little bit less than I am. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
um, but other than that, no real news there. So that's all I've been playing. So, Boston, what about you?
I've been spending the last couple of days here playing the Division 2. They most reason so there's sort of two reasons. One is the season is winding down for Destiny 2, and I was done with most of the stuff like a couple of weeks ago. And like we're our raid team in Destiny 2 is we're clearing the newest raid in like under an hour and a half every week. So like we're kind of we're at a really good point for kind of everything. Um, so I don't other than the raid and like the night where I play with the other two dads, like I'm not playing it beyond that. So Division 2 just came out with their 4K 60 frames update for Series X and PS5. So I was like, all right, it's about time for me to hop back into Division 2, check that out. Um, there's like season 3 or 4 going on right now, but when I looked, there's like, yeah, it's like 16 more weeks. And it's like, well, okay, wow, all right. So that's sort of clipping away pretty nicely. Um, there's a Resident Evil 25th anniversary thing going on right now, which is actually really fun. They do these events called apparel events, and it's essentially like um, every couple of levels you get on your in-game watch, you'll get a key. You use that key to open up a loot box. It's on a knockout system. It'll contain a piece of Resident Evil apparel. It'll be like Jill Valentine's outfit, Chris Redfield's outfit, like this outfit from Resident Evil 4. So all that stuff is great, and it's really easy to get the Resident Evil stuff, which is nice. Um, and largely, Division 2 is kind of still good. It's not going to set the world on fire, and the development team. One of the I don't want to speak ill of the development team because number one, I don't like when people do that towards developers, and number two, like you never really know what they're struggling with inside the team. Especially right now with COVID. Um,
Yeah.
but I feel so badly for Ubisoft Massive because ever since the game launched, they have had nothing but problems just trying to get the game to function. like and I don't say that lightly because there's a lot of times where they'll put out a new patch and put a new season or a new DLC or something. It'll be like, oh, there's 5 new exotics that come out. None of them function, and that's not even like, oh, half of the thing doesn't work. It just doesn't work at all. And it'll be another couple patches, and then it'll finally work. Um, it's just one of those things where they have struggled, and it feels like they've fought with their own game for so long, and they're just having such a hard time. And now they're off working on Ubisoft Massive is now going to be working on that open world Star Wars game because to bring it into the real world for the moment, no one's going to make a Division 3 right now about a deadly virus that's sweeping the nation and civil unrest. So Division 3 probably isn't going to happen anytime soon, which is a pretty good choice. But it's kind of a bummer to see. That game is really good, and it's a bummer to see them kind of keep struggling with it. But I think that stuff only really applies to like the super hardcore, which I am definitely, that's me in Destiny. That's not me in Division. Like, I think if you've ever been interested in the Division, the base game and the expansion Warlords of New York, those both go on sale for really cheap pretty often. You could spend like 60 hours playing just the base level of both of those things and kind of finish it and kind of call it a day. And I think you'd have a good time for like $15. So I can still recommend those. That it's just a really solid game. I finished Immortals Fenyx Rising, which is still a bad title. This is one of 3 Ubisoft open world games that they released in November and December of 2020. And I really, really, really like Immortals Fenyx Rising. The short of it, I don't remember if I talked about it on the show, and if I did, I probably didn't talk too much about it. In short, it's Breath of the Wild, but they've trimmed off all the fat that frustrates people in Breath of the Wild. There are no breakable weapons. You upgrade all your weapons, none of them break. They get stronger as you level up and as you level up your weapons. There's a stamina system that looks a lot like, the UI looks a lot like Breath of the Wild. But you don't slip and fall in rain. It's all that, I won't go super deep on it, but it's all that sort of stuff where it's like, Breath of the Wild is great, but this stuff was really frustrating. And imagine if they took Breath of the Wild's map and only had like 5 of those sections and really densely packed those 5 sections. So it's a relatively small map, but it's really, really packed with interesting stuff where like you're interacting with something, you like solve a puzzle and you're like, all right, cool, that got me a bunch of stuff that was really interesting. And there's like within 100 meters of you, there's like 3 other cool things to go do. So you don't have to go too far to go see something cool. Upgrade trees are great. You're learning a bunch of new skills. You're upgrading all your weapons and your potions and stuff. This game is shorter than I was expecting, which is kind of a bonus. I think it took me like 25 hours to play through, which is, like a quarter of how long the most recent Assassin's Creed games are. But I didn't have any problems with this game except for the last dungeon. Essentially, you clear out like the 4 base areas, and the game's like, all right, this place you couldn't get to up in the north, the cold zone, time to go there. Like, get all the way to the top of this mountain. You do that, and then they open up basically the bad guy's dungeon. By that point of the game, I just wanted to go fight the bad guy, and they have you do like this set of really easy puzzles, of like 4 really easy puzzles, and it's like, okay, cool, like let's go. I'm ready to go fight this guy. And opens into this giant arena, and you have to do 8 more fairly easy puzzles. I was like, please, please, I just want to go fight the bad guy, like, please. But thankfully, all of that stuff was, if you had done any of the puzzles in the game before, it's like, oh, right, one of these puzzles. Okay, just move this here, click this there, do that thing. Okay, it's good. So that was my only like real small complaint about it. I really, really, really liked this game. I had been looking forward to it for a while, and I even ran into a game-breaking bug and had to like revert a save, so I lost a couple hours. But like, Immortals Fenyx Rising is really, really good. I can't recommend it enough for someone that just probably the thing that will, as a last note here, probably the thing that will chafe the most people is Zeus and I can never remember his name, even though he's in the game for like 75% of the time. The god who's always getting his liver eaten, is chained to that rock.
That's not. In my head, it's always Hercules, even though it's not.
It's,
is it Apollo?
No, it's anyway, that guy. Basically, the whole conceit is he's telling Zeus a story of your character, Fenyx, sort of like his or
Prometheus.
Yes, thank you, Prometheus. So Prometheus is telling Zeus a story, this like tall tale about your character, Fenyx, and about their adventures throughout this island. And they are talking over we're talking about Transistor. It's like Bastion and Transistor. It's like there's these two narrators that are narrating the things that you're doing, but they're trying to be funny about it. And for me, it was kind of harmless. But for a lot of people, it's just sort of like, please stop. Like, this isn't funny. I don't really care. If that's the case for you, I would just kind of turn the voices down and maybe like listen to a podcast or some music or something. Because I think for me, the fun of it was just, this is a really fun game to play that you can kind of see where the story is going like an hour in. So don't worry too much about that. And then just kind of go play a game that is just fun to play without being revolutionary or being the best thing or being 4K 60 HDR. Like it's just a really great game. On the other side of the coin, I spent a lot of time this past month playing Monster Sanctuary. This is the game that I mentioned to you, Musum, a couple weeks ago. I think it was before we did the last game club. I don't think I talked about it last episode. Let me refer to my notes here. But this is the game that is... Where's PUP? God, we recorded this like a billion years ago. I didn't have anything last month. So this is a 2D side-scrolling platforming Metroidvania turn-based Pokemon monster collecting and fighting game. So that's a lot of stuff, but it's you kind of get this like puzzle solving Metroidvania combined with you run into a monster in the platforming thing, it turns into Pokemon. You have 6 monsters that you have caught. You're raising them, you're upgrading their skill trees, you're equipping them with equipment, you're feeding them food that boosts their stats. They're gaining XP through battles, etc., etc. The skill trees are way more detailed than they have any right to be. The game is way bigger than it has any right to be. The problem is, though, honestly, this is a 10 out of 10 game. I'm glad it came out on Game Pass because otherwise I wouldn't have tried it. It's a 10 out of 10 game until you get to like the second to last boss. And it's essentially, there's this tower at like the top of the map, you're climbing up it and you're doing not a boss rush, but it's like the thing that JRPGs do at the end where it's like, a lot of Final Fantasy games, it's like, oh, you fight the dark version of this boss you fought at the beginning, and it's super hard now. Like, you're refighting a lot of the bosses that you fought throughout the game. And it's fine. But you run into this one boss that fights so radically different than all of the other bosses that I cannot beat him. And I realized that after spending literally an entire week of like 4 or 5 hours a day changing monster teams, trying these different strats, reading all this stuff online, that, boy, maybe the problem isn't me. And maybe the problem is that there's just this stupid, crazy difficulty spike. And part of what made me stop playing the game that I was 100% in love with up until this point is like, of course I kept fighting this boss and fighting it and not making any progress. And The big problem is that all of the monsters you fight on the enemy team have crazy amounts of regen. So you'll do a bunch of damage, and then they'll just regenerate all that health and a little bit more. And it's like, okay, well, that's not great. I don't know how I'm going to beat this. And of course, like, I did a search for, I think the boss's name is like Zosimos. So I was like, Monster Sanctuary Zosimos fight. And like the very first result is someone, it was either Reddit or the Steam forums, which like should have told me and all I needed to know at the beginning. But like the very first one is someone saying like, "Hey man, this boss is really hard. Like, what am I doing wrong here?" The rest of the game has been totally fine, which was my case. Like a lot of boss battles that were tough, but nothing impossible. And of course, the first result is like, "Oh, is this baby's first monster catching game?
Oh
Go
my
back to
gosh.
Pokemon where you can't even fail." I was like, "Dude, come on!" Like this is not. I was like, "Okay, fine." The rest of the feedback in this thread was solid, but like, it that's not solving my problem. So I'm like doing all this research, watching all these YouTube videos, trying all these different teams, and like trying 4 or 5 different teams, and nothing is working. I was just like, I. All right, does the developer know that this is a problem? Because it seems like a 1 or 2 person team, and the developer was like, "Oh, well, we're gonna put out a patch sometime in February that's going to address some of the difficulty complaints that players have had. We'll be adding like a harder mode, and then we'll be adding a story mode for a certain subset of gamers that find the game too difficult." And it's like, come on, man.
Oh
Like,
my gosh.
I'm just having problems with one boss battle. And I was talking about this on TVGP the other day. Moonpier and I on We Roguelike It have had this thing we've been rallying against for a while, which is a game that spends too long in early access comes out too hard for brand new players. Because in early access, they'll unveil another region or they'll unveil another area or set of zones or something, and the players that are playing in early access have like super min-maxed and they've got everything perfect, and they go in this new content and they're like, "Oh, it's way too easy, like I just steamrolled this whole thing." So this last zone in the game is super super difficult, and everyone's like, "Oh well, if you just had X, Y, and Z super rare stuff that's all like perfectly min-maxed, you can just one-shot every enemy." It's like, well, that's not where I'm at. Like, I just picked this game up on Game Pass. Like, what are you? So I really like Monster Sanctuary. I really hope they fix just this one battle. The rest of it is an incredible, super fun, really great game that I spent like 20 something hours playing up until that point. Like it's a really great, super solid game, except for just like this one total BS boss fight that like everybody's super condescending about for seemingly no reason, which is stop being the internet. That's just the worst. Last game, real quick. I started Fail Seal Arbiter's Mark.
Yay! Holy, really?
I bought this. Yeah, I bought this a while ago because you enjoyed it so much, and I was like, all right, it sounds like it's up my like in my wheelhouse. And I started it a couple of days ago, and I had to restart the game because I fought the first battle or like the intro battle a while ago, and I was like, okay, cool. Like I'm not in the mood for it right now. So I restarted it. I think I'm like 3 or 4 battles in, and boy, they just made Final Fantasy Tactics, like
Yeah.
including all the like. The funniest part is like the so to address the normal complaints that most people have, the art style is unique. It's fine. I don't hate it. I don't super love it. I love the backgrounds. I think a lot of that stuff looks super cool. The character designs are largely pretty good, but it has like that. I'm not picking on anybody. It has like that Unity engine, like marionette sort of
yeah.
quality to the character movements, which again, not a problem. Like, make your game. just like use the tools you have. I'm not expecting like, cyberpunk levels of budget or anything, but it's one of those things where it's like, okay, like this isn't necessarily my style, but it all really works. Um, but man, the battle system is really, really great. It took me like 2 or 3 battles to figure out, oh, I don't have any healing spells because I need to go into this character and spend their skill points or whatever they're called in this game to buy the heal spell. Or now that character will have it unlocked in that job. Okay, cool. Um, One of my more favorite things is this game doesn't super wear Final Fantasy Tactics on its sleeve, except when you go to change your job for a character, and it has the exact animation from Final Fantasy Tactics where like they're in a clump in the middle of the screen and they fan out into a big circle, and I was like, that's just the animation, man. Like
Yeah.
you just did the animation. Um, so far, I'm really, really, really impressed by this, and it like feeds the part of my brain that just is like, all right, I'll sit on this tile and like maybe do like 3 or 4 fights to kind of get some levels up, and I'll get most importantly get like some job points for these jobs, and then I can already. I think one of the smart things it does immediately is like your 2 or 3 main characters already have enough skills in like 2 jobs to start with to mix and match skills. And I think that's one of the smartest things to say, like, you don't have to like learn 4 jobs and 50 different skills to start mixing and matching. It's like, no, if you want someone that can hit really hard but also steal a bunch of gold from people, that's this character. And this one can do a bunch of kind of debuffing things and they can heal. Like, I think that's a really, really smart choice on their end to kind of show you that if you haven't played Final Fantasy Tactics, it shows you that really early, where it's like, here is how you mix and match. Here's all the stuff you can do. I think you can see the book opening up in front of you already.
Yeah.
So, Felseal seems real good so far.
Oh man, I've had a feeling that you and Mina would enjoy this game, so I'm happy
Yeah,
that one of you's finally playing it. I think the character art I think grew on me after a while. Like
yeah,
I wouldn't ever like quote it as one of my favorites, but it after a while there's a certain charm to it, and I've just learned to appreciate kind of the indie nature of it, you know.
yeah. And like the character portraits are all really well done, and like
Yeah.
there's an early scene where you're like a captain or whatever in the arbiters, and you go to this big meeting where someone says like, oh, this is the big council, we're immortal, whatever, I'm retiring, peace. And like all of the immortals are all very clearly distinct from one another. It's not like, well, here's all the same model, but this one's blue, this one's purple, this one's yellow. Like they're all very distinctly different from one another. And I think that's one of the biggest strengths of this game early on is even your main characters look very, very different from each other, which is
Yeah.
sounds like a basic thing, but in a lot of these sort of grid-based, turn-based SRPGs, that can be a little bit difficult where it's like, here are your 3 main characters, they're all knights, they're all the primary colors. Like, like
Yeah.
that can be the downside.
So I will warn you of one thing. One of my friends played that game and really liked it, and then he decided I can't. He's playing on Switch, right? And he made something like 50 or 60 characters,
Oh wow.
and like because I think he said he made one for each class, but he went beyond that somehow.
Yeah.
But point being is he made too many characters than the game can handle. So now his save game like is kind of corrupted and he
Oh
can't
no.
finish it. So don't
Yeah.
go too crazy with the random roll ups. You get a lot of story characters as is. So
Oh, okay. Yeah, I think I
uh,
have like 8 characters right now because the game starts off with like I think 3, maybe 4, and then like 1 or 2 kind of like, well, here's a healer, and I think I recruited 2 more people from the guild just to see how that worked.
Yeah.
And that works like exactly how you expect it would be. But most of the fights I can get into now are basically like, bring these 6 characters in. It's like, oh, well, have like
Yeah.
8. So 2 of you are just gonna, until someone gets injured, you're just gonna kind of stay on the sidelines.
Yeah.
But
It's interesting too, because like as you progress through the game, like it doesn't advertise it, but like some areas, if you just walk through, like you don't even have to interact with it, just have your map cursor go over it, you'll get like an extra scene. Like,
yeah, they
uh,
they they tell you that really early on, where it's like, make sure you interact with each node on the map, because certain things can happen on these nodes, even if it's somewhere you visited before. So like, you finish the first fight and you can like go to the next node, and if you look on the previous node, it'll say like, oh, there's an event with one of your characters, and 2 of the characters will basically just have a really short scene between the 2 of them, where it's like, oh, this is really hard, like, oh yeah, like this is really challenging, this is my first adventure away from home. But that stuff is really pretty cool. um,
yeah,
it's a cool game.
they have a healthy amount of side story. Like for an indie team that I'm guessing is like 5 or 6 people.
Yeah.
Um, it's from what I remember on the credits, most of the credits was the publisher's people.
Oh, sure.
uh,
Right.
but
Right.
it's like there's a lot of content in that game, and there's a decent amount of side story, and I really enjoyed. Like the story doesn't necessarily do a whole lot that's unexpected, but
Sure.
the characters I think are a lot of fun, and
It
I
seems
don't know.
well written even from the beginning. Like,
Yeah.
it's a well written story.
Oh, right. Real quick on the they have like 5 or 6 uh, classes that like are it's like Lich and Princess and Lord.
Oh, are they
Like
like the hidden ones?
you have to get an item for them
Oh, okay.
to change into them. And my big paranoia and my friends for a long time was, well, crap, I need to do this one last because I don't know if I can change out of it. And
Right.
the answer is you can change in and out at will. You just pay the price once.
Oh,
Um,
to like learn it once
yeah.
and then it's unlocked. Okay.
And the other part to those classes is only your non-story characters can get them, which seemed kind of odd to me. But like a lot of those classes have a lot of the skills that the story classes have.
Oh, okay.
So like I don't know, one character might get like the Lich skills, for instance, but he's not going to get the Princess skills. So it's a little annoying in that aspect, and that you wish you
Sure.
could go through the various ones. But just kind of a heads up, because I don't think the game ever explains any of that. Not that
Oh,
you're going to have
okay.
to worry about that for 10 hours, but
Yeah. Yeah, I actually looked. I didn't realize this came out on PS4, but I'm playing it on Switch, and so far it's run
yeah.
really well. It's really nice. So
And that's what I played it through on. I
yeah,
thought the Switch version was real good.
yeah,
So
yeah. It's nice to just lay in bed and play a strategy game
yeah,
while I'm like listening to a podcast. So
it really is the perfect comfort food. Like
yeah, it's like I don't. It's not. It's one of the great things I like about releases here in one news story. So let's just knock those out here. Releases for February 2021. Ease 9 Monstrum Nox is out now on the PS4. Reminder for anyone that might. I've never played an Ease game, but reminder for anyone that is in the same boat that I am: you don't need to have played the previous ones. All the Ease games are self-contained. It's very much like the Final Fantasy games, where it's just, here's a brand new world. They star the same character, but the adventures are kind of all separated out. So if you just
yeah.
want to start with 9, you totally can. No big deal.
And of note, the Nymph from Boston's other
Yes.
podcast, TVGP, is an expert on those games. So
Yes. Loves them. Yeah.
just
He
go
would highly
look for
recommend them.
that keyword on the TVGP website.
Yeah, right. Anodyne 2 Return to Dust comes out on Switch, PS4, PS5, Xbox One, and Series X on the 18th. This has been out on PC for a couple of months here. The first Anodyne was really a love letter to Link to the Past. This one is very much a love letter of like PS1 RPGs. It really has that distinct style of like kind of not low polygon, but kind of like simpler texture 3D type of game. And then from what I understand, it's almost like Psychonauts, where you're kind of jumping into people's brains to do a little bit of cleanup work. The jumping into people's brain stuff is 2D again. So it's kind of two art styles at the same time. I've heard nothing but good things about both of these games. I think the first one is on sale on Switch for like 99 cents almost all the time, and I've heard that game is really good. So I'll get around to it at some point. Next game, Persona 5 Strikers comes out PC, Switch, PS4 on the 23rd. I will be playing this on PS5, but from what I've heard, both Switch and PS4 versions are both really good, and I am really looking forward to finally get my hands on this.
Yeah.
Another game. This month is really good for RPGs. Bravely Default 2 comes out on the Switch on the 26th. I have this pre-ordered because everything that they have shown looks really, really good for this. It seems like they sort of have reversed course after Bravely Second, which was not great. First one is legitimately very good. It looks like Bravely Default 2 is kind of on that same path. Although they keep announcing more asterisks, which is their version of jobs. I think they're up to like 55 right
Holy
now.
crap.
And it's just like you can mix and match a whole bunch of stuff. So this game seems really big, and I'm like really ready to just kind of like strap on the bib and tuck in and really enjoy. Like, I haven't played a really long RPG in a while. I could be really ready for that. Last game here, Yakuza Like a Dragon comes out on the PS5 on March 2nd. This is, for some reason, it's coming out on PS5 later. I don't know why. That's really weird. But that's almost as soon. Everyone seems to love it, and I haven't played it yet, so maybe now. And let's cover our news story here. The biggest news story here that just happened this week is the Mass Effect Legendary Edition finally has a release date. It's going to be May 14th, 2021. It's coming out on PC, on Steam, and Origin. It's also coming out on PS4 and Xbox One. Both versions are forward compatible with the PS5 and the Series X. They detailed all of the new stuff here. So it's 4K and HDR, remastered character models and improved textures, and they're improving pretty much everything. Shaders, VFX, lighting, shadows, field of depth, pre-rendered cinematic scenes have also been upgraded, and controller support has been added to the PC edition. There's a lot of side-by-side footage of like, here's what this looks like, and here's what it looks like on the new game. They even brought back like one of the art leads from Mass Effect 1 to kind of repaint a whole bunch of background stuff for this to kind of match how the game looks now. So they're doing a significant amount of work on this game to kind of, and that's not even talking about the gameplay improvements they're making for Mass Effect 1 to kind of bring it in line with 2 and 3. They did mention two things are not going to make it in. Mass Effect 3's multiplayer is going to make it in, which, yeah, I get. Like, they said, like, the amount of work we would need for that is just the same amount of work to redo all three games. So they said it's just not worth it. And the only PC DLC that's not going to be in there is Mass Effect 1's Pinnacle Station. They wanted to put that in, but they found that their source code and the source code of the team that ported it to other platforms are corrupted. So they said that they can't bring it in because the source code doesn't function, and apparently it would be and a pretty significant amount of work to recreate it. And Pinnacle Station wasn't really that great in the first place. So it's not like Mass Effect 3 Citadel DLC where it's like, all right, we have to bring this in, we have to make it, that's a critical one. So those are the only two things that are going to be missing, which is Pinnacle Station being corrupted is kind of a bummer, but that's what happens with some of this stuff. These games are now old enough where it's like, that's probably
technically you can. Like, it's a bummer it won't be in the remastered, but like you can still get that DLC for the original, and I'm fairly certain like it's a free DLC on PC on top of that.
Yeah, I think it was, because I think that was the one that bridged 1 and 2, if I remember correctly, where it's like, here's the reason why things end up the way they did in 2. And there was like a bridge DLC between 2 and 3 as well. But like at the end of the day, they don't really matter, because the games at the beginning, especially 2, is basically like, we were on this mission. Oh no, everything went wrong. Boom, I'm dead. So
I gotta tell you, for as exciting as like a lot of that news was, and as excited as I am to see what they did to Mass Effect 1, the thing I wanted to see them say most is, we decided to redo the inventory system.
So I think that's one of the things they are redoing in 1, because they're like, the Mako will drive differently, the shooting will function sort of more in line with 2 and 3, and the inventory management stuff is going to be revamped. So I think they really, there's been a bunch of interviews recently of them being like, look, Mass Effect 1 was really cool. It's not up to snuff, gameplay wise, like 2 and 3 were. So we had a lot of work to do on that one, a lot less on 2 and 3. Like, those were already in a good spot, but some of the stuff in 1 kind of sucked. So we're gonna fix all that stuff, which is great. And I haven't played these games in maybe, I don't know if I've ever done like another replay of 3. I've played 1 and 2 like maybe twice, but it's been a really long time. I feel like I'm kind of looking forward to playing these again.
And you'd never actually played the Citadel DLC, did you?
No, I don't think did I play any of the DLC in 3? No, because I think I finished it and I was like, that was good. I had a good time with that. Like, I'm kind of, the trilogy's done. I'm good. I'm happy with where that went. But no, I will definitely be playing the Citadel DLC this time, because it is, everybody 1000% loves it.
Yeah. So, okay, it does. Why am I trying to give you advice on something 5 months from now?
I appreciate it.
You could start the Citadel's DLC at a lot of points in Mass Effect 3. Just keep in mind, at the point you started at, those are the characters that the party is going to happen with. So,
okay. So you want to get like the most amount of people to kick the party off. Gotcha. Okay.
Like, it'll be way more fun than if you wait till late game. But anyway.
Yeah. So we'll see. That's coming out pretty soon. So we'll see. We should start getting more previews and some reviews here pretty soon, and we'll see how it is. And then we'll wait for everyone to like put out 20-hour videos. We're comparing every little pixel between the two versions, and I don't really care that much. I just want to play these games again. Yeah. But that's our episode for this month. Thank you everyone for listening. PickingUpThePixels.com is where you can find us. Everywhere to find it and follow us is on the right hand side of the page. Patreon.com/E1M1, the Wonder Numbers, if you want to support the show. Your money helps me pay for all the show related bills. If you're interested in where all that money goes, I'm very transparent about that stuff. It's all on the Patreon page. You can see the different tiers of the exact breakdown of where all that money goes. And then you get early access to a whole bunch of shows, uncensored outtakes from not this show usually, but the TVGP stuff. And you can get us closer to the $250 goal of me playing scary games at night and after everyone has gone to bed and scaring the poops out of myself. So patreon.com/E1M1. Musum, where can we find you online?
You can find the Nexus for my audio endeavors at jbasandboyaudio.net.
And you can find Mina at Mina KO Rocket on both Twitter and YouTube, and I think Twitch as well. And you can find all my shows at e1m1.com. Thank you so much, everyone, for listening, and our adventure continues next month. Bye.
Bye.
And thanks, everyone, for watching the video. So bright. We'll see you next time.